Good evening. You're listening to Movie Watch Live on my channel Pete Mac with my guests Karl Hungus and Aldous Huxley. Tonight we're going to be watching a retro classic sci-fi fantasy film called Krull, and if you want to get that on whichever source you're looking for and be ready to start the movie. Just before we start, I will introduce my guests. So, good evening, Karl.
Good evening, Pete. It's nice to be here. Thank you for the invite, and I'm looking forward to this one. A little bit more lucid than last weekend, and so we'll have some good analysis here.
Cool. And Aldous, are you looking forward to this one?
Yeah, I am. This is it's kind of a cult classic that I've always appreciated, and in kind of the week leading up to watching this, I dug up a bunch of stuff that I didn't know, and in rewatching it, caught a whole lot of cool symbolism that we can chat about.
Yeah, cool. Right, so without further ado, we'll get the film started. So I'm just going to say go after a count of three. And on the count of go, if you're just ready to start your movie at that point. So 3, 2, 1, go.
All right.
So here's the Columbia Pictures Lady with the Torch. And that score by James Horner is probably one of the best things about this movie, and the thing that everybody remembers.
Well, this is 1983, so Horner's coming off of his huge hit with Star Trek II Wrath of Khan, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of that. You can kind of catch it in the background of the...
Hey, so what's this thing? I'm sorry. He did the score to both of those?
Yeah.
Because you can hear, I mean, if you listen to the soundtrack of Wrath of Khan, it's pretty horn heavy. In a lot of places, you can hear it in this opening music.
Yeah. And... Karl, do you recognize that weapon that's just come out on the screen?
Well, to be completely honest with you, I fucked up already and I'm out of place. So.
Oh, that's all right. We're about
2 seconds into it, brother. I go to move my mouse, right, and I've got a gaming mouse. I accidentally hit one of the buttons and it shot me forward an hour.
That's all right. All right. Well,
I'm at 125.
Yeah.
125.
Yeah.
All right, I'm a little bit behind here.
Yeah.
I can't even tell where I'm at.
I'm just seeing Francesca Annis's name.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I've seen Francesca Annis's name, and now I'm seeing the spaceship coming towards the middle of the screen.
Good. I'm approximately where you're at.
Yeah. Who'll catch up more?
Spaceship, huh? Looks like an asteroid. Well, that's one of the things they're saying. If you kind of keep up with like when they're talking about human exploration of space, is one of the things they're talking about is just attaching rockets to asteroids and going from there.
It's a good point. Can you see the twin suns?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to say this now. This sort of hints to the producer, Ron Silverman's attempt to try and replicate or at least compete with Star Wars.
Yeah, it's a little Tatooine-ish, huh?
Yeah. And that's not the first thing you'll see which is trying to tie it in with Star Wars, or rather replicate Star Wars.
Right, and if you keep in the concept of duality, the twin suns, as you're watching this, just look out for pairings, look out for things that mirror each other, both in physical and theme. And there's a lot of it throughout the film. Here's Nick Maley coming off of Return of the Jedi as the special effects guy. James Horner, obviously, we already mentioned him.
Peter Yates, what else did he do?
Yates,
director.
Yeah, just looking at the note. Yeah.
Bullet is probably his most famous.
That was it. And I think as well, there was. We'll cover later on some of the issues that the filmmakers had, and there was a bit of a disappointment with Yates because there was great expectations because of his work on Bullet, and we can cover a little bit about some of the issues Yates had later on in the film. But he was an established director. So I've just got the bit where the castle, the spaceship, has landed on the planet.
Yeah, I just landed.
Yeah.
Now we're getting a close up of this place, and there's creepy people with candles coming out. Are you there, or am I too far ahead?
No, that's fine. I think you're only a few seconds from me. Freddie Jones is reading the, I suppose, a prologue. The thing about this movie is it could have really had a proper prologue done at the start, which might have helped explain some of the plot.
Right.
So you've got this miniature prologue here. And this is where his character explains why the beast is here, because the child, the offspring of this royal couple, the prince and princess, will rule the galaxy. So obviously he wants to usurp that.
He wants to cuck him.
Yeah, so he wants to invade and take the princess and take that power for himself. So what do you think of this armor, Karl?
It's pretty cool. I mean, all right. So we got there's a difference here because from other movies, because this is like a mishmash. It's kind of like sci-fi and quasi-historical. But I mean, they're wearing like plate armor and stuff, which would be pretty common, 1400s, late 1300s, into the 1500s. There's not a whole lot right now that I can truly pick up on. I get it on this road, but let's see. They're riding their horses down the hill. They're riding everywhere.
Yeah, there's a bit more traditional sort of armor and arms. The prince is wearing here and everything.
Right. Yeah, he's kind of got that, like, it looks like a purple leather sort of jacket on over his stuff. It looks all right. It's cool. Yeah. Hey, his haircut's kind of weird, but it's the 80s, man.
There's another Star Wars.
You can really hear it in the music, dude.
Yeah. The actors on this film were all British actors, apart from the lead role, played by Ken Marshall, who plays Colwyn. Now, the princess is played by Lisette Anthony, who was quite well known over here in the UK at the time in the 80s. She appeared in pop videos and loads of different things. Now, she one of the producers, it might have even been Ron Silverman, had the interesting idea that if she had a British accent, the American audience wouldn't like that. So they decided to dub over her voice with an actress in her 40s, Lindsay Krause. So this young woman, if you look closely, the lip sync is slightly out, and of course she sounds like an older woman.
Right.
But it's because if you listen to Lindsay Krause's voice, I think it's because they're trying to go for that Princess Leia thing. And of course, this film came out. What was it, Aldous? How soon was this connected to Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the same week or the following week, but I mean, it was a massive studio disappointment because it was so close and they had so much competition with films that were much more well polished.
Yeah, right. So it really suffered from that. I mean, it wasn't just Return of the Jedi. You had Octopussy out around that time as well, and Superman 3. But I think the studio producers seriously were thinking about trying to produce something that would replicate Star Wars, and this is their attempt at that. But it was what we'll cover a little bit later was how last minute some of the work was with something Karl Aldous pointed out, which was that it's a top-down production, which led to a lot of disorganization, which meant that ultimately it was late coming out. And Return of the Jedi had already come out, and it suffered greatly because of that.
All right, so here's the thing that's bugging me already with like some of the outfits and armor and stuff they're wearing. whenever you see a guy in leather armor, like whether you're watching like Game of Thrones and Jon Snow walking around in leather armor, just realize leather armor is utter crap. It is not necessarily historical, never was used, because armor is just skin, and swords and axes cut skin pretty damn well.
Yeah.
Now, often what they would do is they'd put plates underneath the armor, steel plates that would be riveted on, and that was what was called a brigandine.
Yeah.
And that was really common in the late from 1350 or so to the mid 1400s. It was pretty effective, but that's not what I'm seeing here. But,
well, one thing to remember too is when, as Pete mentioned, this was a top-down production, and they were told to make a Star Wars clone, if you will, and it started off very sci-fi heavy, and the longer the production went on, the more fantasy medieval it became.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, as you're watching, especially this first portion of the movie here, with we had the Beast ship come in. It's very sci-fi, and that tends to taper down as the movie goes in. So just kind of watch that through the sequence.
So one thing that, from a costuming point of view, just to finish off the leather armor thing, it is cheap and it does look cool. So I mean, very good reasons to use it and utilize it in your movies. But I'm sorry.
So here's the Slayers coming. Aldous, you found out something about the whole design of that area of the film. Is that right? I think he's muted himself.
Must have lost all the stories.
Yeah.
Are they getting married here? Is this their wedding?
Well, it's a royal wedding. Here we see the character of Ynea. I had to practice that pronunciation because it's it's not a very normal word. Ynyr. This is played by Freddie Jones, and so the Slayers, which are the troops of the Beast, are on their way to the castle to stop the ceremony. And again, we've got this sort of Star Wars-esque armor of the knights here.
Now, even though that's not like a historical thing, that does look pretty freaking cool. I kind of like it.
It does look good.
The guys that are in Burgundy too, if you've ever seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure, they show up when they're on the back of the movie lot, riding around on the bike. There's two of the guys in the Burgundy armor that show up.
And you can see the symbol of the glaive, not the glove, the glaive in the background there. Not the glove. And that was another thing. They tried to market the weapon as a toy. So there was a lot of
I've got a few things to say about that when he actually gets that thing.
Yeah. And so this is the idea that in their world, magic is normal. The princess has the power of fire, and she wants to give it to the prince Colwyn, but doesn't get a chance. They're here we go. Yes, the Slayers. The Slayers have come to cook them.
Shit like this that's why they had best men and groomsmen back in the Middle Ages. If someone tries to mess with your wedding, your boys are supposed to get in there. That's where that whole tradition comes from.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
So one of as now that we've seen the Slayers and they're riding into the castle, this is probably a good point to mention this, Pete. So Nick Maley was in charge of the special effects, and his budget and time crunch was under a budget and a time crunch. He was told by the production staff he wouldn't have to worry about designing the Slayer outfits, and then 10 days before filming was told, nope, the prop guys can't do it. We need you to make the Slayer outfits. So in 10 days, working double shifts, his guys came up with these, and they only were able to make 40 suits, and not all of them were complete. So you'll see the same suits repeated, that they've just shot them in such a way so that it looks like there's a lot, but there's actually not.
The magic of Hollywood right there. Whoa, that could just fell into pieces.
Yeah. You can see as well that, the performance of the Slayers, they're using these laser weapons. They would be totally unstoppable. I mean, there would be no way anyone could ever stand against them. But then they start using weapons, and they're basically like statuesque street performers at the in which they go. It's like, oh, there you go.
Yep, there we have the
influence. You might see them in Times Square or or in Piccadilly Circus or something.
Yeah, well, you can defeat them with tablecloths. There you go.
Oh, dude, spike to the neck.
This guy's visor for this armor, when it's down, it makes him look like a bit like a duck.
Yeah.
But you might have noticed when you kill a Slayer, they sort of come out of the armor, the bit in the head, and it's a bit like Alien.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like I say, they're trying to just say, right, okay, that was a successful movie. Let's get a bit of that, and that was a successful movie. Let's get a bit of that. And we're going to hit the mark somewhere, you know.
Is that the old dude fighting with the dagger and sword? That's the hero's father.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. The
like
actors in this, like I was saying, Lisette Anthony is English as well. So all of these actors, apart from the lead role of Ken Marshall, are English actors. Some of them were RSC trained, which is why the film still carries, because that's one of the reasons the film is still watchable, because the actors' performances is really good.
Oh, Dad just got it.
Yeah, we also have the kind of the Errol Flynn moment where he's swinging on the rope across the. I mean, there's a lot of little harken backs to a lot of your standards sword and swashbuckle type historical or not classic movies.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Marshall did a lot of training for this movie. He was quite accomplished. He was quite athletic. He put his heart and soul in doing as good a job as he could. It's a shame that because the film, you know, the things we might touch on later, and the timing of when the film came out, it bombed at the box office. So
look at the torches in the background. They're in twos, kind of like the sun.
Yeah, so you got a bit of the duality theme there as well. So yeah, I mean, that's just to keep Colwyn warm overnight. That little fire, they're quite considerate, aren't they? So there you go.
Catch a cold.
Yeah, I'll just there you are. But because this film, you know, didn't do great at the box office, it lost a lot of money. I think that might have affected Ken Marshall's career, because he didn't get any work for about 4 years afterwards. So there's 40 suits. Is that right, Aldous? 40 Slayer suits. Because we're seeing, I don't know how they're doing this shot, because we're seeing, I think we're seeing more than 40 here. So there must be people in the background just dressed in black. Or, as Carl said, camera trickery.
Yeah, that's what it is. Ooh, look at that, bodies right there. Now those swords are kind of cool because those actually look like, you know, 15th century long swords. I like them. Yeah, I don't know about the spandex and plastic, but you know, those guys are dead. They're not going to worry about it anymore.
So I've reached the scene where Ynea, the sage character, has just turned up at the castle. Is that where you two are now?
Yeah, I'm right where he's like putting some salve on his wound or something.
Yeah.
Or about to. Yeah. There he goes. He's touched it to his flesh.
Yeah. Peanut butter.
Peanut butter. That's gonna get stuck in the hair on his chest. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we generally comment on the actresses as well. She was looking pretty 80s-rific, pretty good though. Like the big puffy curly 80s red hair.
Yeah, she's really like symbolic of that kind of look. She was referred to as the face of the 80s, and sometimes because she was in a lot of well-known pop videos and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, so it would have been good if they could have just kept her original voice. I think that would have been a plus for the movie.
As an American, I would not have cared if she spoke in British.
Well, you know, the irony is today, Star Wars only uses British brunette actresses.
Right.
So, but I think George Lucas was originally looking for a British actress to play Princess Leia originally, which is why Carrie Fisher practiced that accent in the first place, because she had sort of a,
you can
a semi-British accent in the character.
That's right. Yeah, you can hear that in her voice when she's talking. It's now, come on, get up off the ground. You've got things to do. You have a kingdom to rule. And,
Is it so? If Colwyn is the Luke Skywalker character here, then Ynea is the Obi-Wan, and there's a lot of similarity between the way Obi-Wan finds Luke in the desert and brings him back to health, and what Ynea's doing here.
Slayers are kind of like the sand people of the stormtroopers.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of strong similarities between the two films, and this is where Ynea tells Colwyn about what he needs to do and where he needs to go to find the weapon, etc.
Right.
Well, this is also now we talked about I'm sorry, I just had to step away from it.
That's right.
Talking about the hero's journey at all to this point?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Corwin, the hero, has been introduced. He's been isolated. His father's now dead. He's got his damseling going on. Lyssa, his engaged betrothed, has been captured and imprisoned by the evil bad guy. And now we have been introduced to his mentor, this Yggnir character, played by Freddie Jones. So as we move forward, keep in mind the hero's journey, because now we're well into it. We're in the beginning arc here as we go and try to fletch the weapon.
Yeah. The scenery here as well, I think, from what I've read, most of it was done on giant sound stages, but this is I believe somewhere in Italy. So I think this is the same area as well where they later filmed the scene with the horses. But fantastic scenery around here. I don't know whether it's the Alps. It doesn't say in the research I've looked at.
All right, so those right there, those are the original soy pants, those stripy ass pants. The original pants.
Yeah. I think they're trying to hearken to the Renaissance era,
if you go back and watch the Romeo and Juliet from the 1960s, they're all in like these stripy, crazy pants and shit. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that does look like northern
I think it must be the Alps, wasn't it?
Yeah,
somewhere there. Okay, so this is the super long climbing scene where it's practically in real time. The hero climbs.
Yes.
So you climb a cliff to get to the cleft in the cliff, and inside the cleft's a cave. Inside the cave is the glaive.
And of course, the compulsory rock slide.
Yeah, random, not caused by anybody rock slide. Watch out.
Well, and it's very important too that this whole time they've known where it is.
Yep.
They've known how to get there.
Yep.
But nobody up until now has gone, you know what, let's go get it.
You think you'd want to do that thing when you don't need it, so you had it when you did.
Right.
So here's a question. Yeah. When I remember watching the film, I thought, how can he put his hand into the molten wallpaper paste or porridge oats or whatever and not get his hand burnt off? And I was thinking, it's because he's got the power of flame from...
but he doesn't.
Exactly. From this point, so he hasn't got the power of flame from Lyssa. So what happened there?
Well, I think that's just another example of the chosen trope. He's been chosen for this. He's the only one that can reach into it.
Yeah.
He is the one that's destined. So it's akin to Arthur pulling the sword from the stone. How can this kid do it versus everybody else?
Yeah, and again, that's another big thing. The Excalibur references, because this came out 2 years after Excalibur, and that was a big influence on the producers as well.
You were not lying. This is in real time. He's climbing this fucking mountain.
It is. The scenery is phenomenal. It's beautiful.
This is the Alps. That is for sure the Alps, though.
Yeah.
This is a good example of just it. of how what happens when you do a top-down film, right? I mean, the story did not take precedence. It was, we're going to do this and have an adventure sequence where they're climbing in a mountain. Well, okay, we'll write this in. You can take this and cut it in half and it still works.
Yeah. The person I feel for in the situation is the music composer, because he's got to compose something to make this exciting.
And he does a fantastic job. I mean,
he does. It's stirring.
Retrospectively, I mean, James Horner considers this probably in the top 5 of his work, this score. So here we go, into the cave. And there's also echoes of Dragon Slayer here as well. You know?
Sure. Empire Strikes Back, the whole deal.
Yeah.
Well, the movie was originally going to be called Dragons of Krull. And because of the failure of Dragon Slayer at the box office, they changed it to just Krull. And they did some other modifications that we can talk about later. But that is Excalibur, Star Wars, Dragon Slayer. All these themes played into this film. It was very much, it wasn't its own unique production. It was a response to everything else. Yeah. And as you're watching, you can see that begin to play out the more the movie goes.
All right.
Here's the starfish, the magical starfish.
All right, looks like he's about to reach for it.
I heard something about how
it's important to roll your sleeve up too, because
you don't want to burn your sleeve.
Right, your flesh is fine, but
rolled up very far. He's only expecting to go an inch higher than his sleeve was at.
Yeah.
And the chosen one. Here we go.
Aldous, do you know the story behind how they got this thing to work? How they got the blades to come out?
Yeah, it's they were held in place by a bunch of rubber bands, if I remember correctly.
There you go, the high tech solution.
Because they couldn't figure out how they could get the blades to come out, so they ended up holding them into place with rubber bands, and when he activates it, it cuts the band.
Yeah.
This fucking thing. I hate this weapon. This is not a real weapon. All right. First of all, let's start with the name. They call it a glaive. A glaive is not a throwing thing. It's basically a French pole arm,
right?
With a big old, it's like a big old butcher cleaver axe head with a spike on the back of it. So that's what a glaive is. But we'll go with their nomenclature here.
It does look cool.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's like a mix between like a ninja star and a chakram, an Indian chakram. The way they use it.
Okay, this we've got, as you're coming up on the eye, and this is inside the beast layer. This is a reoccurring motif that occurs throughout this movie with an eye.
Right.
And it's something to.
I'm sorry, I finished. I was just gonna say this is like one of the most iconic shots in the whole movie. I remember this from 30 years ago when I watched this movie last.
Yeah, yeah.
And here's the terrible beast, and the beast was Nick Maley said it was the most complex special effects operation he had done up to this point in his career.
Right. So we get a sneak peek of that, and now we're straight back to Coleman again. Right. I mean, the thing about this weapon, they're obviously trying to back to the Arthur theme, and this is supposed to be their version of Excalibur. You know, the way...
Right, so you just had the Corwin, Luke, Arthur character just received Excalibur, the lightsaber, the glaive.
Yeah, exactly. and as far as like understanding how stories are retold and retold and retold, this movie is actually a really good example of that, because the movie, the principle behind this movie is they're trying to retell established stories that were actually, unfortunately, contemporary. So it's, they're trying to reinvent the wheel in a way, but nevertheless, it's something about the way it was made still worked, and it remains a very well followed film, very much admired by its cult following.
Yeah, they don't have to make Citizen Kane here; they just got to make something entertaining, and so far, it's doing its job.
It does, yeah. Despite all the difficulties, it's actually an entertaining movie. So Yanir has told Colwyn here, yeah, you're not allowed to use that weapon. It's basically an all-powerful weapon, but you're not allowed to use it yet.
Right. It's an impractical weapon. It's just not practical.
Well, it's a magical throwing disc that has blades pop out. So
Yeah.
And it's a boomerang as
practicality
well.
when it going out the window.
So
It's a
it's
boomerang throwing star that comes back, and it doesn't cut your fingers off when you catch it again.
right. That's right.
So I'm now at the scene where they've reached the forest, and you're about to see the first of the, well, apart from the old man, and another character coming along.
They look like they're going to have a moment there for a second.
Yeah. So this character is just appearing now.
He's trying to be funny. Is he there, Jar Jar?
It's the comic relief. So this is David Batley. He's a really good performer. His speciality was like sarcastic, sort of satirical characters.
And his role does actually work in this
Yeah.
as comedic relief. He plays kind of just an off-center character, and it fits. It doesn't seem forced entirely. It's not shoehorned in. It works for the character.
Yeah, I've seen loads of fantasy films where they'd say, "Hey, we need a comic relief wizard. Let's get an English actor," and it's always a real disaster. But in this instance, this actor here, David Batley, does a really good job. He hits the nail right on the head with this. I do want to get his recipe for hot fudge toast, I must admit.
That does sound good. So he's a magician, huh?
Yeah. There's
Sort
a
of.
good line coming up here. Listen to what he says.
Yeah, it's good.
What I could have done if I were a vengeful man.
Yeah.
So the special effects there where he's doing the morphing, that was just frame morphing.
Yeah.
They really didn't have the budget. They didn't have the budget at the time or what they wanted to do. So they just kind of used the old frame morph, multiple shot technique.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out pretty good for the final product. It's not bad by any means.
When you think about later films like Willow and the morphing sequences they had, you know, in that short space of time, how far the special effects had came.
Well, they spared no expense on the special effect guys either. You've got Meddings and Maley.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, there's one gentleman from Harryhausen's troupe that actually came over. It was his primary understudy that worked on this. So
yeah, that's another thing. The yet another genre it was trying to bring in was the genre of have you seen the Cyclops there?
Yeah.
Played by Bernard Breslow. The genre of Clash of the Titans, which was also out in that era. So you see, by this time, 83, you know, you had the well-established genre of Star Wars. You had Clash of the Titans. You know, you had the Superman franchise. There was a lot of competition. It was heavy-hitting competition in the early 80s. So this film faced stiff competition at the time. So now we see the castle's ability to teleport and change its position every day. Now I picked up on it and thought, well, that's possibly yet another genre, Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the TARDIS.
Yeah.
So this film contains elements of lots of different science fiction and fantasy genres.
There's a nice shot right there.
Mm.
Back to the soundstage.
Yes. Now here we have the scene where the heroes come up against more potential recruits.
You see him fucking with his shoe right there.
Yeah.
So I've actually kind of like worn shoes like that at reenactments and shit, and
Yeah.
that may have been improvised, not necessarily improvised, but like the consequences of actually walking those fucking things.
Yeah.
I will give it this. If you look on his shoulder, you can see where he was hit. There's consistency in costuming throughout this, which is good to see.
That it allows us to suspend a little bit of disbelief on this. That's good. Oh, here we go. There's Qui-Gon.
Yep. So again, you're seeing actors who ironically went on to greater things, whereas the lead in this movie didn't really go on to very much for at least the next 4 years. So in Britain, there's at least 3 actors here which are famous. Obviously, you've got Liam Neeson, but you've also got Robbie Coltrane, and here you've got Alan Armstrong.
Oh, wow.
Who was the leader of the bandit gang. Now, Alan Armstrong's doing stuff even today.
Robbie Coltrane looks like El Chapo.
Yeah.
Like El Chapo's Mongoloid brother.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I'm sure he's... there we go. So Alan Armstrong's actually in something really recent. He's on a TV series called Frontier, which is on Netflix right now.
Alan Armstrong today looks like the lead singer from Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Yeah, that's the effect that goes.
Okay, so he was also in Braveheart. He was, I remember him from Braveheart.
Yeah, he was one of the Scottish lords, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Dexy's Midnight Runners. I'm not gonna lie, he really does.
Now, I do think this whole segment here with the brigands and runaway thieves, escaped prisoners, is probably some of the best dialogue in the movie. And I don't know if it's the actors delivering it or if it was actually just
it is.
better written than the rest of it. But
look how young Liam looks. Look how young he looks, man.
Yeah.
Well, this continues our theme of every other week. Liam Neeson will be in a movie we're watching.
He's younger than he did in Excalibur, and this is 2 years after.
Yeah, he got himself in these movies early on to establish his name. But the performances here from Alan and from Liam are really good. And you're now in a new it's hit a new dimension, the film, whereby, you start to get into it more. This scene is, you get more invested in the characters. You won't know, but there's a young lad standing on the rock there who was really famous in Britain at the time. We had a kids' TV show drama called Grange Hill. You won't know anything about it, but he was like a teenage heartthrob of the day.
That kid right there,
he
needs to pluck his eyebrows. He's got the unibrow going. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, this is the other part that's kind of tragic about this. You've got all these great classically trained British actors that have gone on and have had, even up to this point, a good career. You've got Freddie Jones, who just exudes gravitas.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Ken Marshall that's trying to deal with this clunky dialogue in a lot of sequences and script. And it doesn't do him any favors. And kind of like we were talking last week, and this is kind of a growing theme in these, Peter McNichol was kind of savaged in Dragon Slayer 2 for his acting, and it wasn't so much his acting as it was the script. And here again, we're seeing it replayed with a young up-and-comer whose career is unfortunately railroaded by really just tragic writing.
It's too bad and all that, but I wouldn't feel too bad for him. I mean, for like 2 years after this, he was probably slaying it every weekend, so I don't too bad. Too much for him. Look how thin Robbie is right there. It's looking good, except for that cute haircut.
Do you know as well, they even dubbed over his voice in points as well. They used, that's his voice there, but at times they even dubbed over his voice with another famous British actor from London. I forget now, but Michael Elphick, that was it. So it's like the producers just didn't care about the actors, and the actors are trying to do their best job. to make it believable.
I mean, you work with what you're given, right? So
yeah.
Look behind you, buddy.
There's a random slayer who's just, taking a walk in the countryside.
Yeah, there's our cyclops, buddy. I want to take a look at the spear. I want to see if it looks up.
A 3-bladed throwing spear.
That's pretty awkward. That's not too aerodynamic. No, I wouldn't do that. That wouldn't be my thing. But check out Liam Neeson's axe. That's pretty cool. That's almost like a Danish axe from the like 9 to 1000s era. Real long haft on it.
Yeah. I suppose as well, because their performance is really good. I think as far as their career, people who were watching their performance thought, wow, these actors are that good. They can take this script and actually still do really well. I think I'll give them the job. So that probably this film ironically probably helped to launch Liam's career, further than it was.
Yeah, he was basically a character actor up until a certain point. God, I can't remember what his first, maybe Darkman or something. 1989 was like.
I remember going to see that. Yeah, that was a really good film.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot better than it was when I was a little kid.
Yeah,
maybe it was a little bit over my head.
So now you're hearing about the story of the Cyclops. So, Aldous, what do you think about the idea of the Cyclops and losing an eye, but being able to tell the future, but only seeing the point of their death?
I think it harkens back to the theme of the eye, the motif of the eye that is going to continue throughout it. Also, we're like you were talking about with the possibility of what does the beast gain? He stole their eye, and then tricked them. What does he get in exchange for that? Well, he gets their eye, but what else? What else is he gaining from that equation? And then how often does this happen? Does this happen on every world?
Yep.
Yeah, but if I'm going to lose an eye, I want to see the future and only be able to see my death. That's the shittiest deal ever.
Well, that was what they were conned into. So they've they've done a deal with the devil and ended up on the wrong side of the deal.
There you
go.
So
we're getting to the point now with the Emerald Seer.
So that kind of deal with the devil thing can be kind of taken back to the whole relationship with Vader and the Emperor.
Yes.
Right.
Now, what are you seeing here, Karl? Are you seeing a green light?
Yeah.
There's what does that remind you of? What other film has a green light?
Yeah. Excalibur.
Yeah.
Green light everywhere. So connection to the earth, connection to the spirit of the planet you're on, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, I just hit 42 minutes of my timestamp too, just for anybody watching.
Right, I'm about 8 seconds behind, so I'll just catch up. There you are. So I'm at the point where they've just gone through the cave. Now, the actor here, who plays the Emerald Seer, John Welsh, I said they were all English actors, with the exception of Colwyn. John Welsh is actually Irish. From Wexford in Ireland, where all the well, actually, it's a fantastic part of Ireland, Wexford.
Yeah, southeastern tip.
Yeah.
When I went there in 2004, that's one of the places we did not go to.
Yeah,
but I would love to have. There was a Viking settlement. Wexford was.
That's right.
Wexford,
people.
A Viking city, or a town.
Yeah. So we're now at the point where, and for me, there's a sort of a similarity between this cave and the pot cooking on the fire with Yoda's cave in Empire Strikes Back.
No doubt.
And now again, this is just another step in the hero's journey. He's building his party.
Mm-hmm.
He's growing in his leadership qualities. Now men are following him. He's gathering the forces that he needs to fight the evil.
I like the color of his cloak. That's nice.
Yeah,
it really stands out against everything else because they're all dressed kind of drab and kind of like in blacks and grays and browns, and everything behind him is brown with a little bit of light on it. it really stands out. Really good shot.
Yeah, the photography in this scene with the way the light's coming down and the detail they've put in. See, this is the other thread in this movie, that the set design, there was a lot of hard work when the set design, this cave and all the little things hanging there, the food on the go and everything. You know, it's you know, it's
Yeah, a
really
lot of
done.
details. A
Wow.
lot of details.
This is a good bit with Urgel, the dialogue here. This is the way he says it as well.
What kind of boy are you? Boys always have candy.
I love this.
Poor kid, he got a goofy haircut, and this guy took more than half his candy from him.
Yeah, I like the way he says. He says, "I'm Titch," and he goes, "That's not impressive, but adequate." I love that. You know, these little touches from the actors. So.
That's that dry British humor. I love it.
So I'm at the bit where the Emerald see us trying to find out the location of the castle, and the Emerald Stone spinning around. Again, the blue screen on there, Aldous, isn't great, is it? But
no, and I'm not actually sure if this is blue screen or if this is like a cell animation. It looks like a little bit of blue screen. But the blue screen in this whole movie is very disappointing. As it goes on, you'll continually see that, and it's unfortunate because it's contrasted with some excellent cinematic special effects that are just phenomenal, and some good stop motion.
Yeah, we'll see that later on.
Well, even the stuff caught by the second unit, secondary unit, catching all just the panoramic shots and stuff. Those are incredible.
Yeah, the location shooting as well earlier was fantastic. I mean, you know, the scenery was very dramatic.
So he's gonna wear. So what that guy? Never mind. He's gonna wear chainmail on his shoulders, but not over his abdomen. That's one way to do it. Is he blind or something? Why is he all squishy?
Yes, the Emerald Sea is blind.
Oh, okay.
Then the boy Titch is kind of his assistant, replacement, and guide, all wrapped into one.
Right, his seeing eye dog.
Right, he is the Galen to the to go back to Dragon Slayer.
Yeah,
very nice analogy. Well
so
done.
The same sort of themes revisited again. So this is a swamp. They used the biggest soundstage available in the time, which was the 007 soundstage in England. So this swamp, interestingly, they did such a good job with the way they made it that the crew and the actors would often fall into the quicksand areas there without realizing where they were. There was somebody took a tally of it, something like between 70 to 100 times it happened or something like that. So it was a common occurrence. But I think they did a good job with this. When you think about the amount of money that went into making, I mean, I can't remember exactly how much was spent on the production of the film. Do you know, Aldous? Or
no, not off the top of my head. I mean, I know we mentioned it briefly.
Yeah.
You know, Robbie Coltrane's the only one of these three guys that has a sensible weapon.
The spear?
The spear.
Yeah.
It's a practical, normal design. Doesn't have any weird, odd spikes. Doesn't look like it weighs 15 pounds.
Yeah.
That's what I would choose.
Yeah, the budget for this in the early 80s was $30 million, and that was just to make it. That's not the promotion. And part of that, I'm sure, didn't help the fact that Peter Yates, the director, hated making this so much that he took a 2-week vacation in the middle of making it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we got the point where the Slayers have just started to appear.
Yep, there they are. I'm sure the studio was happy about him taking that vacation too.
Now, when you think Return of the
rise up
Jedi,
out of the water.
Yeah, that was a nice shot. That I remember. That's one of the things I remember about this film, the way they get attacked this way. Return of the Jedi was $32.5 million US in the same year. So this is only $2 million less than production cost than Return of the Jedi, and it bombed. So think about how much money they lost.
Well, it still lost less money than Solo.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
There he goes with that triple trident spear.
Yeah, and there's the alien reference again. Now, at this point, they back off. I don't know why. And why aren't they using their lasers?
Well, they did. They fired their
went
volley of the laser spears in.
Yeah.
And, now they're disengaging after one dies. They're very poorly led.
Ooh, look at this. He's doing a little saber and dagger, not saber dagger, sword and dagger right there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. That's good stuff.
So we're getting a lot of close-ups of the suits here. And
you can kind of see it's just basically like a black suit with some armor plating kind of on the front and the back, and then a fairly intricate helmet and shoulder design. And that's about it.
It almost looks like it put some plates over a wetsuit or something, you know?
And what was it Maley said about them? He was disappointed because he didn't want to have
he didn't want to have the guy in the rubber suit look.
That was it. Yeah.
They ended up being guys in rubber suits.
Pretty much.
What do you think of the sword that Colin's got, Carl?
Let me get a good close up of it. There we go. She just grabbed it. It's cool. I don't know about the slit down the middle. I think that's not probably good because you have it's pretty weak. It's not solid to absorb as much of the blow. It would be one thing to have. He has grooves in it. They call those grooves fullers, and those are to lighten the blade and all that. Which is you want that, but you don't want gaps in your blade like that. Yeah. Especially if you're going to be doing what he's doing, blocking heavy sword blows and axe blows and stuff. You don't want that.
Aldous, we're seeing the Cyclops there close up for the first time. What can you tell us about the special effects for the Cyclops?
I took minimal notes on it, but it was a series of prosthetics. The actor could only see out of one eye the way the prosthetics were rigged up, and I think there was I can't remember the number, but the whole eye is being remote controlled. The eyelid is being remote controlled. The folds of the skin and how they react are being remote controlled through valve systems. Yeah. So there's a lot that went into that little bit on his face that really, if you pay attention, it's not used much.
Yeah.
So again, they've got this fine focus on detail that's just not executed properly or well.
Yeah.
I don't know how you put a Cyclops face on a human, considering our bone structure constitutes we have two eyeballs, but the way they did it, his brow line looks like a clitoris.
Right. I was thinking as well. It's for all the money they spent on it. It's and all the effort they put into it. It's just not convincing.
Why did I say that? I can't stop seeing it now.
Well, you didn't notice the cleft in the cliff earlier, Carl.
Yeah, and then he's got
that was deliberately done. The cleft in the cliff. This is the Nestle white chocolate moment.
Yeah.
The advert from the 80s. But I mean, the whole of the interior of the castle, I do like this design because it's Salvador Dali. Somebody liked Salvador Dali, says, right, this is how we're going to design it. And so
it's very organic too.
Yes, exactly. And of course,
or something.
Yeah, Lisette Anthony. You can see why she was used for pop videos. And this sequence here is almost like they're just saying, right, let's just do a pop video.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, there's the closing buttocks wall there. And then we get a close-up of the beast.
And here we are again. We're focusing in on an eye.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that eye theme continue.
Yeah.
A single eye. Maybe that's the eye he took from the Cyclopses.
Right, so here's the quicksand scene.
It's very never-ending story right here. Although that was the year afterwards.
Oh yeah, and there's the horses towards the end of the film are also reminiscent of the Luck Dragon from Neverending Story. So I think the producers are trying to put in as many different favorite scenes or favorite monsters and elements from lots of different films.
To be fair to them on that one, the Neverending Story came out in '84, so
yeah, that's true.
This old guy just off in the woods, all out of it, no idea what's going on.
And there's a stripy soy pants again.
Yep, stripy soy pants. Looks like they just threw a bunch of sawdust over water.
That's it. Yeah, that's what it looks like. I think it was like greenish water and just loads and loads of sawdust.
Yeah, it looked like they raided a lumber mill.
So that was why there was a shortage of sawdust in 1983 in the Kent area.
That's exactly it right there. Here, throw us the bag. Don't give us your hand.
Yeah.
Duty unto death right here. He threw them the bag.
Yeah. And this is where you hopefully you can pull him out. You're rooting for him. This is the hero trying his best to save other people.
It'd be more poignant if it was one of the other characters that we actually gave a shit about, though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it is a little disappointing, but now that he's down, I'm gonna grab the bag anyway. So
yep. No, fuck it. At least small victories, right? Yeah, he's gone. Fuck it.
Now here we have the changeling. Now I think this is quite well done. I don't know how it's got to be split screen, I'm assuming at this point. And so you can see the power that the beast has. He can cause the slayers to appear. You can cause the earth to try and swallow people up. You can send these changelings in, and so you wonder how would they ever defeat? How would they ever defeat him?
It's formidable opponent. This is the freakiest looking old dude I've ever seen in my life.
That choking scene there,
it
just always freaks me out.
He's got pointy ears. He's super frail looking.
Yeah, that scene with the hand always makes me think of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh yeah.
As well as that, I think there was alien things that come out of the slayers with the tentacles flaying around. That reminds me of The Thing as well.
Come on, old man, move it.
And this is the almost gotcha moment. And then when Alan Armstrong comes along, and so the change is going, don't! Almost had you there. And that's the freaky black eyes.
Yep. That's the scariest part of all them black eyes.
But again, I think this scene is overly long. This whole scene in the swamp.
The endless trek through the swamp.
Yeah. I mean, again, it points to the writing and the producing. And I'm thinking...
and the direction.
Yes.
And the editing. And that's kind of the point, is like if at any point the studio could have stepped in and gone, I mean, if this is what they wanted, because they could have put a stop to it and they didn't.
Yeah.
So this is evidently their epic that they wanted to pay all that money for.
Yeah, and I suppose there's this sort of points to the problem that you've got in Hollywood now, that when you get top-down movies being made by corporation, by 20 different people, you get these formulaic movies being made. I mean, not saying this is formulaic. This is still quite original for its day in terms of the performances are good. The artists who were involved, there was a lot of artists who'd worked in production, people who'd worked in Star Wars and Superman films, Clash of the Titans. So you had some real talent there. But the thing that really sort of the parallel between this film and what we've got going on now in Hollywood is, that the playing safe and the decisions made at the top, and there's no real connection with the art. So you get things, and you end up with things like Solo, where less said the better.
Right. And at a certain point, it doesn't matter how much talent you have if what you're doing is screwed up from the beginning,
Exactly.
And you're getting. Oh, here's our Cyclopean friend coming to the rescue.
Yep.
Yeah, the Cyclops now arrives and liberates the hero.
This is another really freaky scene where the
It doesn't look very comfortable, does it? Looks like he's in pain.
Everything sort of sinks back into the earth as well, every time they die there.
Oh. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, now I got to look at his spear. I think it'd make a better thrusting spear than a throwing spear just because of the aerodynamics of the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think that would fly too well. It wouldn't be
It would be pretty good for stabbing, I guess.
Yep. Good for a giant marshmallow.
Or 3 hot dogs at once.
Yeah.
So we've now reached, we're at the 1 hour mark. The movie's a little over 2 hours long, and we're still questing. We don't know where the Beast's castle is. We haven't really reached the apex of the first part of the journey. It's like it kind of just the pacing of this is really far off.
Yeah.
That's
it, and that also talks about the the pacing, the script writing, where there's large areas of film that we don't need, and there's areas of the film where we do need more information.
This is also in the pocket. Well, think about this. I mean, this has nothing to do with this is story stuff. This is an apocalyptic event here, because I mean, this guy's the Beast is just going to wreck the place if he gets his way, right? I mean,
well, he already has. Earlier, when Corwin and his father arrived, they said they had to ride through the countryside because all the towns are being burned.
Right.
So I mean, it's apocalyptic. The world is ending. The Beast is destroying the world.
Yeah, and with a prologue, that would have really worked.
To show the ravaged worlds that he had been at before, and then
what he's doing to this world. So you don't get that impending sense of doom. What you get is someone's stolen my bride, and the ship leaves tomorrow. So I want to find out where it's leaving from.
Here, as they're getting out of the swamp again, it's a good shot of the duality, the twin sons, the pairing. We're back to the pairing theme, and now also we have we've got the two magicians, the young green seer and Ergo, are both together, and everybody's kind of paired up.
So to touch on what you were saying, though, Pete, you do lose a sense of and scope of what they're actually up against by not having that prologue or a better way of getting forth the point. Because I mean, if you just come into it, you're thinking it's just a stolen bride kind of scenario.
Yeah, and I think it comes off really as a fairy tale, a stolen bride fairy tale. That's really what it comes off across.
It's something akin to like the Princess Bride, as opposed to something like I don't know.
That's it. That's the overriding feel I get. That it's really like a Princess Bride fairy tale story, and I mean, interestingly enough, as well, talking about prologues, you've got there's a strong link to the movie Dune, which I think was a year after this. Because you've got actors from that film as well. So not only could it have done with a prologue like Dune had a prologue, but you've got Freddie Jones, and you've also got Francesca Rannis, who play a couple in this film, who also appear in Dune. I mean, have you got? I'm about to see Francesca Garcia. Aldous, what were you were going to say something about that, about the prologue for June and about Freddie Jones?
Yeah, it kind of comes a little bit later and ties into some stuff, but the production for this too went on for a long time, and Dune, of course, was famous for going on for a long time. So, Freddie Jones, the poor guy, man, he was on back-to-back troubled production films. So you gotta pity the guy.
As far as Dune goes, Dune is the opposite problem of a prologue. Of the prologue with this movie, and that's they throws too much information at you too quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you're learning the galaxy's history in the course of 30 seconds.
Yeah. But definitely have to do that at some point, though. We'll have to do June sometime.
Refresh my memory. Was Arrakis a
Arrakis was the desert planet? Yeah.
No, was it a binary system as well with two suns, or did it have two?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, but
no, it only had a single sun.
It had multiple moons, though, if I recall.
Yes,
right?
there was multiple moons of Arrakis.
So that, I believe so. Because they had the one that they named the Muad'Dib after, right? And then there's the shadow.
That was the shadow of the mouse on the moon.
So Yania has gone to see The Widow of the Web. And again, we have the theme of duality coming up. I think we can talk about that in just a second. This is where the men ask Liam Neeson if he's got a wife nearby and they can get fed. This again just seems like, it's so last minute. It's like, okay, they get to this place. We need randomly he's got a wife that lives nearby, and that's a good way to lead on to another scene.
Look at the saddle he just pulled off. That saddle, that's actually a pretty good representation of a medieval style saddle, because you have the high cantle on the front and the back, which would have been necessary for using a lance from horseback or any type of spear. So I kind of like that. That was cool. I mean, they didn't have to put that touch in, but they did.
So again, to get where you want to go, you've got to climb up a mountain.
I hope we don't. Do we need to see it in real time, though? That is the question.
No, thankfully not in this case. So again, we're sort of like, this is what I'm at 1 hour, 6 minutes 32, and it's like, all right, okay, we're having dinner in the forest.
Right.
It's like, it's just
where
these women come from.
Yeah, these conversations.
Well, it's kind of suggested that there's a town nearby, but it conflicts with the earlier that we had to ride carefully because they were everywhere. Well, okay, apparently they're not everywhere.
Oh, this is the wife right here and her friends or something.
Yeah, these are some of the few lines that Liam gets.
Hey, RBCC, all right? RBCC.
Yeah. Faithful is my middle name, and of course we know he's got several wives already.
So this is an interesting sequence here. Kind of ties in again to the inverse of what's occurring with Lyssa.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see in a second what's going on there. The beast is trying another ploy. So again, Salvador Dali-esque scenery. Obviously, it's a claw. She's in the palm of his hand, type of thing.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's a good-looking shot.
Yeah, I think that's.
She's just wandering around the castle. She doesn't have anywhere to sit down or.
Well, that's why this whole sequence. I mean, you could cut all of her sequences where she's just running through the castle. And Pete's right. You could put an '80s pop song on it and throw it on it, and it would fit.
There's some more of that organic-looking imagery right there. Almost looks like a hose made of bone.
Yeah. Now,
obviously, there's claws in the back or ribs or something.
When I saw this scene, I thought, they're trying to reference the the moment where Christ was taken to a high place and offered all the kingdoms of the world. You know, the way he's sort of offering everything all the time, but you just got to give up everything in order to have that existence.
Yeah, it's not that bad a gig, I guess.
And now we're back to the Darth Vader type of performance from the Beast.
That was weird. They cut to him and her, the prince and the blonde chick in the camp, and now they cut back to that. That was some goofy editing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
The special effects here too, with like the hand that comes up and then it catches on fire, and then it's the rose, and you can just tell it's not sharp work. And again, we have the single eye that we cut to on the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is also a prime example where you're talking about the blue screen. The work is just not there. The green screen, whatever the fuck they're using at the time.
Yeah.
Here we are. We've shape shifted into Corwin to try to go, look, I can look just like him.
Exactly. And now we're going to see what he's trying to plan in the background. And weirdly, yeah, so there's a duality there.
Yep. So you get the pairings, how we're trying to drive them apart.
Yeah. And the strange thing is, we know that this woman is from here now. We know she's a changeling.
Yep. There we go.
But then the strange thing is as well, because this changeling's taken the form of a woman, it's learned how to love, and actually loved the character of Coleman and can't kill him. So that's an interesting.
He's got his sword on his hip. Why didn't he just draw that?
There's a good shot of the Beast.
There you go. Looks like a creature from Black Lagoon or something.
But
so it's actually an actress that's inside the Beast suit, and the reason they used an actress was they wanted to build up the head and the shoulders of the Beast with a smaller waist to give it less of a humanoid look.
Yeah.
So it was a professional dancer actress that was in there, a little tiny waist, and they just built up this huge costume around her head and shoulders.
Yeah, you were saying about the weight of the costume.
It was a very heavy, cumbersome costume to move around in. And now we're moving into the Widow of the Web's cave.
Yep.
And I think this is some of the best special effects in the movie. This whole sequence is just very well done.
Yeah. And this is, again, this calls on the other films of the day, which was for instance, films like Clash of the Titans with the stop motion animation. And that ties back to what you were saying about the dragon in Dragon Slayer.
Yeah, and this sequence here too is they didn't have any room to use safety harnesses for Freddy here. So he when all this is he's actually climbing without any safety harness on because they didn't have they couldn't afford to take it out in the view if they needed to.
Yeah. When you think about the risks that actors used to take in this period, and there's a point actually along those lines later on. I'll have to remember to mention when they get to the castle. But the animator for the Crystal Spider, there's a link to Harryhausen there, isn't there?
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that looks straight up Harryhausen.
Yeah.
So the terror in his eyes is not really acting. He's really afraid of dashing his brains out 15 feet below. Yeah, that's super Harryhausen right there.
Yeah, and forgive me, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was one of Harryhausen's key guys. And after Clash of the Titans, he went to work on this, and it's his work is very well done.
It's cool looking. It's cool looking. That spider's pretty cool looking. Oh crap! Now it's just dawning on him that he's about to get backholed by this spider.
And so there's the actress Lissa. Sorry, the character Lissa played by Lissa? The reason I said that because while I was thinking about the fact that as the actress, when she was getting the makeup put on for the old woman, she started becoming the character straight away. So while she was in makeup, as they were putting the makeup on her to make her look like a really bitter old woman, she was already becoming the personality of that character. That was the kind of actress she is. She really gets into the part.
So like when Ethan's telling his story about going to some con and Christian Bale's there all being moody and the director Christopher Nolan's like he's still in character or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, one of them actors.
Belinda Main essentially became that person off stage as well as while they were filming. That was how intense she was as an actress. So.
Yeah, the Widow of the Web here, when you see her, she had 24 individual prosthetic pieces that needed to be assembled, that needed to be placed on her face and hands and body.
Wow.
And they really do. They took a very beautiful actress and made her look old.
Yeah, it's really well done because when I saw the film, I just thought that's a different person. When she becomes young, I thought, well, they must have just got an old woman. So the old makeup is just done really well. I wonder if any of this was seen by the producers, the special effects guys who worked on Shelob for Lord of the Rings.
I'm sure they'd seen it at some point.
Peter Jackson. I'm sure Peter Jackson's seen this movie.
It's getting intense. Is he going to make it or not? Oh, he made it. Spoiler.
There we go. So, again, as I was saying, we're getting the duality because this character is also called Lissa, like the young woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as Ynir will kind of use that to accomplish what he wants here, and you have the contrast of they used to be together, and then you've got Corwin and Lissa are trying to get together, and with the events that drove them apart and what she did, and then versus what they're trying to get together so that their son can rule the universe. So it's opportunity and lost opportunity. Trying to get back to each other versus willingly parting. So you've got a lot going on there as contrasts. A little heavy-handed too in the dialogue, but
yeah, there's a sort of hint to other characters like Medusa. I mean, even in the name Medusa, Lissa. So it's that idea of tragedy.
Yeah.
And then we hear that she's killed his son, and then he just forgives her. All right, okay, fine, I forgive you.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy. It's kind of a topic to lay on someone after however long.
Yeah. So he's very magnanimous here, but I'm not sure how I would have taken that news. And there she is. She was a really attractive woman in her younger days.
Yeah.
And you can see why they picked her for to play the was it Duchess or Queen? What was her title in June?
Oh, she was
she was Paul's mother. What was that? What did
She was
play?
Lady Jessica.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Leto's wife, Paul's
Yeah.
mother.
Yes, she would have been. She would have been a Duchess.
But yeah, this too, like many of the sequences, just drags on just a little longer than it needs to.
Yes.
And it's just a theme of the movie. It's still a
Pacing.
movie where you can sit down and watch it. It's a fun movie. I've got positive memories of this.
Yeah.
I remember watching it on vacation with my folks where it was like on TV. We were like 30, 40 minutes into it. We're trying to leave the hotel, and I convinced my folks just to hang out a little while longer so we could finish it. So, and I still feel that way. If it's on, I'll also sit down and watch it.
And it's good, wholesome fun too. That's the other thing is half of these movies you got to worry about watching with your parents, because there's some things I would certainly not watch, even as an adult, would not watch with my parents.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, I think the first time I watched it was a teenager. It was on TV. And it was one of those movies that came on later at night where, you know, it was like 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And just for maybe students who were up too late smoking and drinking or whatever, or just come back from the pub. And I watched it with my dad. And we referred to it in the day that when these kind of films came on back then as slap at the face movies. Yes, so good. Why am I watching this? It's slap your face, but you watch it because it's good enough to watch. There's still something about it you can't explain. It's like this is wrong, but it's actually, I'm entertained. I'm sort of captured by this, and you know, it's known as one of the most well-known good-bad movies or bad-good movies, because despite all its faults, it's still entertaining.
Yeah, I would call it a bad good movie.
Yeah.
It's just on this side of being good. It really is.
Yeah.
You could pretty much change. I love this too, where we have the inverted Wizard of Oz. We break it. The sand is in our hands, and it is our life.
Yeah. I think if you take just one little element away, like for instance, if the soundtrack wasn't really good, if the movie score wasn't really very good, it would fall over. Or if, you know, the special effects were not quite as good. Right.
Well, here you've got as he's escaping, and the spider's coming at him. That shot's a little weak. You can kind of see a little bit of the bed layering. But here, as he's crossing and he's dropping a little bit of sand to freeze the spider, both the spider and Freddie Jones, as he's climbing across, and is really well done. I mean, if you look at it, the spider looks imposing. It looks to have size of some significance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did a good job with that. It does look like it's got some meat to it too. So yeah, not bad.
Yeah. And here we see that we know the fate of Lissa is that the spider goes and kills her. So both of them are sacrificing themselves.
Her moment of redemption.
Mm.
There it comes.
So back to the Italian, possibly Alps there. That must be the Alps there.
It's certainly the Alps.
Yeah. There we go. So the spider has now finally killed Lissa. How much of this movie, though, is kept together by the film score?
Now that's a nice shot right there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the film score is really good. It kind of
watch out for the Polystyrene rock here when he falls. He falls on his boulder. Just on the bottom left.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There you go, Polystyrene rock.
You can see it, broke it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here we have, Ygnir giving us some last support to the young hero, and Yggnir, Merlin / Obi-Wan dies.
Yeah.
So now the mentor has passed the torch. The hero must carry on. He has matured. He is ready. He has his support, his fighters, and he knows where the bad guy is now.
Yep. Now, if anybody wants a timestamp, I'm at 1:24, just past 1:24.
Yep. He still got the hole in his jerkin where he got shot. Nice.
Yep.
touch.
No, it's the consistency on costuming is very good. It's in a lot of ways it's very similar to Dragon Slayer.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of time and focus everywhere but where they should have. In this film, I actually don't think it's the story so much. It's just some of the dialogue's clunky. And really, I think if you edit it down, I think if you took enough out of this and maybe moved some scenes around, it'd work better.
So going back to the idea of how it's a top-down production and how it's clunky and they're trying to. It's as if the producers are just saying, "I want this," and so put this in, put that in, put the other in, and we'll get there. Because for me, it feels like they're trying to reverse engineer a Star Wars film,
Mhm.
you know. And if we just put this, that, and the other in there, we'll get there. And it's clearly not the case. These are the fire mares, Aldous.
And yes, and if you got a sharp eye, or maybe not even that sharp of an eye, you'll notice they're not all mares.
Yeah,
But upcoming here is some of probably the worst blue screen in the early 80s. It is just
traveling, yeah.
It is terrible. And it honestly, up to this point, you can say like, wow, the special effects, you can see money being spent. And then we hit this point and it's a low point of the film.
Yeah.
And it comes to where, I don't know, my impression watching this again was like I was engaged, and this kind of like disengaged me because it takes you out of the being involved in believing, and it's kind of just a little too clunky.
But again, it hints. Sorry, go ahead, Karl.
You finish your thought because mine's just not non sequitur. Go ahead.
Again, it hints to the the difficulties they had filming and the difficulties they had putting this together, in that there really wasn't any proper management and control over this project. The reason it succeeded as much as it did is purely down to the devotion and hard work of the actors and the composer and the set designers, and up until this point the special effects guys as well, because everything was just so last minute and botched by bad planning, and yet the guys involved in it managed to still do a good job in certain different areas. And it's but when we get to this point, we've probably reached a point where people just can't be, they just haven't got the resources and the time to do it properly. That's a botched stuntman jump there. So they've just left it in. So what were you going to say there, Karl?
I was just going to say, we got a close-up on these horses, man. Those are not fire mares. That's my girthy stallion. Right
That's
there.
it. You can see that. There's definitely a chorizo in the wind there. So they're beautiful horses, though.
They are.
I forget which breed they are. I think there's some sort of we would call them ploughman horses over in Britain, similar to derriers. Derriers were like the bigger horses they had in the medieval times, weren't they? The war horses.
Right. Yeah, these are definitely some sort of draft horse. Maybe Percherons or a mix or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, our hero is riding my girthy stallion for sure.
That is it, definitely. Yeah, that black one there is definitely girthy stuff.
And again, this I hate to sound like a broken record, but again, this is dragged on just a little longer than it needed to be. And really, it's a neat concept, what they're going to use here. I have to give them that. It's original for what they're how they're going to travel and get to where they need to go.
Yeah.
It's just this whole thing just has gone on a little bit longer, and that's just the general theme. Everything goes on just a little longer,
Yeah.
drags it out just a little bit.
We don't
Well,
need to see every individual member capture his individual horse. We don't need to see that.
Yeah. Well, I've watched this film many times, but the most recently I watched it again just to review and pick up on the general plot line. And I'll be honest with you, I watched it on double speed, and it was still watchable. I mean, where it just misses out the frames, so the voices are the same pitch. But you just run through it quicker. Because really, it is a very simple plot.
Well, here the Cyclops is leaving him behind. He knows that he knows how he's going to die. If he diverts from that plan, his death will be painful and tragic. So he can't join them.
I mean, the set. Sorry, I know the camera works a little bit shaky there, but the location setting's good. The soundtrack's really good. So it carries that heroic theme. Here we go. So this isn't so much the luck dragon as much as perhaps reindeer. when we see, and I'll say reindeer because Karl, when you see what's about to happen. Now this is was this green screen or?
Yeah, this is all, and actually they it's pretty ingenious how they did this. They got the horses to run on a treadmill in front of the blue screen. So the horses are actually galloping on a treadmill, and that's how they get the motion. So it's a unique solution. It's just the execution of the blue screen is very poor.
The wide angle shots are good.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're better. They're not good.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want, right?
Well, we're finally getting to the castle.
Right. Yeah, we've got
the bit where they thought, right, they've reached a chasm. What do we do at this point? Well, apart from being really fast, these horses can also fly. On Dasher, on Blitzen.
You think the Cyclops would have told them that before they got on? Because how much shorter would their trip have been if they could have flown straight there? Thanks, Dick.
But this is the thing, though. It's for me. That's cheesy enough to be enjoyable. It's just
it is. It's
throw
fun.
away all disbelief and just enjoy it.
So also, what about coming up that cliff, kind of like an ET moment as well, huh? You don't know what happened.
It wouldn't surprise me if that was deliberate.
It must have been. Yeah, I see your luck dragon thing. I see it.
Yeah. And so we're almost at the point again, like Aldous was saying earlier. This could have been shorter as well. And or are we like victims of the fact that we live in an age now where editing is much, much tighter now, and we expect to see things in a much shorter space of time.
Well, I think if you change that to more of a continuous series of the panning shots, I think it works much better because it's beautiful scenery. It's really good cinematography. It's just like this right here. You get the three horses abreast, the flames off their hooves. That's not a bad shot. It's just the bad blue screen takes it away, and it feels so muted.
So here they've finally reached the Death Star. I'm sorry, the Black Fortress. And the film now goes right back to its sort of sci-fi element again, with lasers and things like that.
But so here you have red leader and gold leader are now climbing.
Starting by attack right now, gold leader. Shields to forward position.
So they got to get in before sunup. What happens if they're inside and they just go to another place with them?
Yeah, so they've got to get inside the castle before sunup, otherwise the castle's going to teleport again, because it's also a giant TARDIS.
Right. So here we have the We are there opening the gun ports. The turbo lasers are going to fire.
Yeah. Use the fork, Luke. Fork. Use the fork.
Where's the Cyclops?
Cyclops.
With the fork?
Yeah. Use the fork, Cyclops.
So now also as the contrast to the black outside of the fortress, the Slayers are dressed in black. Inside the fortress, they're in white.
All right. Here's the thing. This is stupid tactically to do what they're doing. The guys on the inside, just leave the damn portal shut. Leave the portcullis shut. Let them fucking disappear.
Well, fortunately, they've opened the door, so now they can get in.
Yes,
and look who's coming to save the day.
Yep.
And for some reason, the Slayers on the inside of the castle are white. Oh no!
No more Robbie.
No, Robbie.
Well, now we've also reached the point where now the hero is going to start losing his adventurers, so that he can eventually face the bad guy alone.
Right. He's got to face some.
So, Gold 5 just went down.
Yeah.
He's almost got the Ro Kabir haircut, doesn't he?
I'm starting to really enjoy this sequence, though.
It's a fun, fast-paced action sequence.
The whole being pinned down, by fire and all that kind of thing. Here he comes, Cyclops.
He's all, fuck this shit.
Get a taste of my fork, man. You see these moon boots there? He's wearing Ugg boots.
Yeah, but I do like the outside of the castle with like these kind of just craggy, crystalline look almost. It looks cool. Now I question how you could maintain that many sharp corners if you've been entering and re-entering atmosphere of planet after planet. But
by the way, did you see that the Cyclops, if it gets hit by laser fire, makes absolutely no difference?
Well, that's why he's going to lead them up.
Yeah, he's immune to
enrage his war boner that much more.
Yeah. Again, he's just immune.
He ain't afraid of their shit. Yeah. See, this is my point. They open the door for them, basically. All they have to do is kill one guy and they're inside.
So here, I mean, the Cyclops is supposed to know that he's going to die. But
he knows how he's going to die, and if he ignores that or tries to do something else, his death will be painful.
And I'd say pretty much this is going to be the painful version of death that's going to happen here.
So now, good thing we let them, we volleyed them and got one or two guys with those spears. Now that the castle's going to disappear, I'm glad we didn't let them in or anything.
Yeah.
All we had to do was let them bang their head against the walls for 5 minutes.
Well, and this movie, that's a solid lesson for any villains out there. Like, hire good help. This is what happens when you hire poor help and it's poorly led.
Yeah. It's just like the Slayers were like, knock, knock on the castle. Hello? Yes, who's there? Come in and invade.
Now we've got the Cyclops is passing in the door for his heroic sacrifice. Yeah. So we have our heroic sacrifice has now occurred twice. Yggnir and now the Cyclops. And now we've got our Star Wars moment of the stormtroopers. I mean the Slayers walking down the hallway.
That's why they're white. The Storm Slayers.
Combat roll for no reason. A very Kirkian combat roll too.
That con doublet on too.
Yeah, I'm getting told off by Johnny Five for not reading the chat. So I did notice you, Johnny Five.
Hey, Johnny Fives. Good to see you. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of grape jelly squirt out between those blocks as he got crushed, though. That would have been a nice touch.
Well, this is some good matte work too, as they're running across the bridge. The blue screen's a little, but the matte painting's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, this is cool too with this not so much where they're falling off the bridge. But where they're shooting in the distance as they're running, it's a neat shot. And then it's interesting that they're running at a slight angle. They're not running straight across. So I give them credit. There's some unique features where they try to break trope and not quite make it the standard fare. But
Yeah, that was another shot that was reminiscent of Star Wars as well. You know, when Luke and Leia are getting shot at from above, almost the same
Exactly.
shot.
And the swashbuckling bit of it, which actually occurred at the bottom at the beginning of the movie. Oh, here we go. This is Liam. Liam, no. Oh. And you don't actually see the moment that he actually.
Right. Now, when Corwin got shot in the shoulder, he was fine. But
Yeah,
Liam,
exactly.
a shoulder wound is fatal if you're not the lead.
Yeah. So you can tell this is one of Liam's early movies because, you know, he's dead.
He dies. Yeah. Well, he dies at Michael Collins, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But, you know, not in such a low T way, you could say. But, you know, I think having characters like that in this movie does help. Right, so this is what I was talking about earlier, the set design. This opening cave here was a machine operated by hydraulics, and it was set up to automatically snap back shut. And the lead actor, Ken Marshall, remarked on the fact that he actually could have died if he hadn't have got out of the gap quick enough, because it was an automatic setting on the machinery that opens and shuts the gap. He just gets out in time here and catches his ankle. And he talks about that. And literally, if he hadn't got out in time, that would have caused serious damage. So again, we're back to the thing of
who thought that was a good idea.
Well, this is it. It's the producers just did not have any serious control over this, but from that particular age as well, I think the health and safety just didn't exist.
They look like they're moon suits or something.
Yeah.
Oh. Don't mess with the tiger.
And again, we're back to the same room that we saw earlier. So we do have some consistency in set design, which is nice to see, and reframing the same rooms that we saw when Lissa was running around, which is both nice and kind of a disappointment because the impression you get of the castle is that it's this massive fortress.
Mm-hmm.
And they come in one door and run around a couple of corridors and they just find it right away. So.
Yeah.
So you want them to extend the scenes of them wandering around aimlessly.
Yeah.
So they entered, right? They entered with about, 8 to 10 guys. And then, in 2 small skirmishes, they whittled them down.
Yeah.
You could have dragged that out and made some tension. They could have split up. They could have searched, had a couple of search parties. Yeah. It doesn't have to be long, but you could have, had different ambushes and different traps just in 5-10 minutes. Do a cut scene, do a little montage.
So this is the bit where for want of a better word, the sperm is trying to get to the egg. Particularly,
you're going
that's
that
the
route.
symbolism I can see here. It's like, come on, break through the cell wall.
When here too, you've got Ergo is helping Titch. He's actually successfully transformed into something that he wanted to and did something. So you kind of have a little bit of growth in that character there.
Dude, I cannot believe that kid was a heartthrob at any point. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was, believe it or not. But he looked cooler in the other role he played.
Sure.
So the 3 bandit heroes have just been sucked into what we find out is the Indiana Jones room.
Yes.
And
They'll get the point.
Here, Colwyn's finally, his seed is breaking through. There you are, Indiana Jones room.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Shall I do the soundtrack? Da 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 da.
That's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, the knife's on the floor. I think I'll go and get that knife. I don't really need it right now, but I'll go and get it.
Well, you know, priorities, okay?
I don't think they had a great deal of time to do this scene because prepare the effects for this scene.
Yeah.
So it's leather brigandines.
Right between the plates.
See, they're no good, are they?
They're no good.
It's just cloth.
A real one would be completely. They'd overlap the plates and stuff. So it would if you sat it down, it would stand upright, which would look weird.
Good thing you got that knife.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you gotta have your knife.
How long is this taking to get through?
Well, again,
Finally.
Everything takes just a little longer than you want it to.
Yeah.
So Corwin has entered the egg to liberate
his woman.
His woman. His woman is now liberated that he has broken the egg.
Yes.
She's got a string of pearls on her wrists, so that's kind of like egg symbolism as well.
Oh, good point. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I mean, she's fertile. Look how many eggs she has.
That's a good point,
She
actually.
prefers a pearl wristband instead of a pearl necklace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now the glaive
is. I saw this before in Tron.
Yeah. Oh, the bit at the end, where it's the disc in the last
so he's fighting
beam.
Master Control. Yeah. It's kind of the same motif here.
Mm-hmm.
I still try to figure out how he catches it without cutting himself, the way those blades are positioned.
Well, he's in control with
begs the question of
there. Now this is what it can do.
Yeah.
So
why have you not been using this the whole time?
That's the flaw in the plan right there.
Right. We had to wait until 80% of the people that pledged their lives to me died before I used the weapon that kills every bad guy with one hit.
He has blood on his hands.
Yeah.
Blood on his hands. His friends are dead because of him.
It's glaive supremacy. So
Glaive privilege.
So I don't know what's happening here. I think these are like proton torpedoes coming out of the beast's mouth.
Halitosis.
Yeah. And this bit here is
beast dodges.
Nick Maley, who was the lead special effects guy on it, said that this was making that beast costume was one of the most difficult things he did in his career. The eyes, the eyelids, the nose, the nostrils, the mouth, and even the teeth, individual teeth on both the upper and lower jaws, were all completely manipulated by radio control. You had multiple controllers coordinating motions and reflexes. There's a series of pumps and valves in the chest cavity that are pumping fluid in like the heart and the lungs. The chest cavity actually pulsates, and all of this, right? All of this work, and you can barely see it because it's so dark.
That's it. All the work they've done, in the end, you can't really see any of it.
That was kind of anticlimactic.
Yep. Nope. It's you spent the first 3/4 of the movie on kind of hefty, like long-winded exposition. Mm-hmm. And in like 15 minutes, they break into the fortress, they kill the bad guy, and it's just, there's nothing else to it.
Mm-hmm. And he can't get his glaive back either.
Why don't you just walk over there and pull it out? Walk over there. It's like 20 yards away. And this is kind of like in the ice cave too, with Luke and his lightsaber.
Yep. Well, and you've got, so now you've killed the bad guy. So we've got, and we've rescued the lady. So we've blown up the Death Star. We've rescued Leia. We've rejuvenated or rekindled our relationship with Guinevere. We've killed Mordred.
Yeah.
All right, that shot right there. I'm going to say one thing. David Bowie looked better in tight pants than this guy, or at least he looked more high tea in the right areas.
Now, it's interesting, too, earlier when Corwin was standing in that same spot and they were doing it, if you noticed around him, you could see a little bit of the blue blur from the blue screen.
Yeah.
Every shot with Lyssa, and I don't know what it is, but it's not as bad.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing maybe there's a secret that insane amounts of hairspray help.
So the beast isn't dead. And the Indiana Jones room's getting worse now for these bandits. This is the bit where I think we find out that it's only the love of these two that can defeat the beast.
Yes, and this is where, if you hearken back to the beginning at the wedding, he never took the fire from her hand.
Yes.
And so they go full circle with that, which is fine. It's cool to always see a nice story throwback for consistency reasons.
Yeah.
But the way it's kind of clunky how it's handled.
Yep.
And I don't know this for a fact, but it really strikes me as this whole ending combat sequence just seems like kind of rushed and thrown together. It doesn't seem well thought out. There's been some originality up to this point with how things have been handled. It's been a little clunky, but there's originality there. And then you get here and it's just like, oh, well, love conquers all.
Oh my God. You know what just came to my mind? Don't kill what you hate, but save what you love.
Oh, there you go. It's a Tico.
Damn it.
Yes, the proton torpedo.
Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe part of our review of everyone should be to find the Tico in the movie.
Yeah.
Find the Tico, yeah.
The Tika type.
The Tico type. I love it. Yeah. So here we're burning. And again, man, they spent all this time and this money on a suit, and like you just get brief glimpses of it.
Yeah, it's
a full body shot would have been a lot better too. And these close-ups are cool because you can see some of the detail, but I mean,
and the main point as well as showing that the glaive weapon is still buried in its side. No reason to do that, to be honest, because he doesn't get it back, does he? So
yeah.
Well, I appreciate the consistency there, though. Almost looks like they took some cues from this for when they designed the Predator outfit with like those tendrils on the back of the skull.
Yeah, I don't know if Maley worked at all with Stan Winston Studios, but I thought Winston Studios, or maybe even Stan himself, did the Predator design. Or at least the final one that you saw on screen. Because originally they had Jean-Claude Van Damme running around in a rubber suit, man.
Right.
Well, we know the beast's defeated now because the bandits in the Indiana Jones room are
the virtual erections coming out of the wall have now retracted.
Yeah. And there's another shot of the glaive.
Ooh, here's a little thing for you. You had that Wizard of Oz reference earlier. Now take this as the dichotomy to the Wizard of Oz, where the witch in the Wizard of Oz died by water and the beast died by fire.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Not just any fire, but the fire of love.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only other sort of Oz reference I could get was the way the castle, teleports different ways. And Dorothy's house ends up in Oz. This is funny. There's some blood on the floor.
Let's follow it.
The place is falling down around us. Let's follow the fucking blood.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure we don't leave anybody behind, even though we left Liam behind.
Yeah. And this is
right.
This is clunky as well. The way
they like him better than they like Liam.
Yeah.
Liam's a dick. No. There's another Oz reference. It's the whole quest to get to that mystical city, that city beyond the horizon.
Well, Emerald City. You've got the Emerald Sea.
Yeah.
So whoever produced the movie obviously liked Oz. Sorry.
I think Oz. It's the same as Oz is the same as Star Wars. It's the same as Excalibur. It's following a classic trope. It's following a classic series of if this happens, then this, then this, then this. It's just some roles are reversed and some things are framed a little different. But here again, we got the castle is coming apart, which it's pretty good. It's done well.
Someone with the welders going crazy upstairs. This isn't bad. I like it.
Here's the bridge again as we race across.
Yeah, not so much this, but when they had the boulders falling from above, that was a practical effect, not not necessarily a.
Yeah, that's just terrible. The bridge is falling apart and they stop.
Let's do the opposite of what you want to do. You have a lot of that. Open the door for the guys trying to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Stop on the bridge as it falls down.
It's and suddenly they're able to find their. Well, we'll see what happens in a second. But the door is closed. How do we get out?
Oh,
Well, there's only one thing we can do.
I'm gonna napalm that wall.
Yes. Because not only can the power of love defeat bad guys, it breaks down walls.
Breaks down barriers.
There you go.
there you go.
You got to save what you love. What was the Tico line?
No.
Fight for what you love.
Don't kill what you hate, or don't fight what you hate, but save what you love, or something.
There you go. He's fighting with his love so he can kill what he hates.
Right.
This there's the eye finally there. It's going to blow up.
Yep, here we have the last of the eye motifs, and it's kind of an invert of what we did last time.
This effect with the castle, Aldous, you were going to say something about that.
Yeah, so the castle was assembled in a piecemeal nature, and they did this upside down and slowly released pieces and had them fall and then posted it back up. But it took a couple takes. I think it was 2 or 3 takes because they had some problems with the tech. But it is a cool effect, as it's instead of collapsing in on itself or anything, it's being sucked back up into space.
Yeah, it is cool.
So they get originality points for that, and it's done well. And it really right there, that shot, those few shots that just like the top spires work better than when they show the whole castle. But it's still good. It still looks okay even now. It doesn't look too dated.
Yeah, I like the way they do that. That reminds me of like the Dark Crystal, that kind of sort of effect.
Mm-hmm.
And also the contrast between the fortress and this beautiful meadow that they're in. So I think the final scene in the movie, it's pretty good for the day.
No, this is good. Not bad. It only looks really stupid when it shows them in the foreground because the blue screen. But when they get the shots of the castle just itself, it looks great.
So now Corwin he's defeated the bad guy. He has rescued the woman. He has led some of his allies to salvation. So now he's regained his position. He's now the king. He's regained the position of his father. He can wear the amulet with pride.
And not a speck of dirt on his trousers.
Absolutely not. Still a small hole in the one shoulder, though.
Yeah. And emancipation as well.
Yes. Well, Corwin is magnanimous. He grants him unto his freedom. And that's a little bit of regained honor troping there that he was a thief and he escaped and he's regained his freedom by showing loyalty and bravery, fighting for a cause. He has regained his honor, not just as a man, but as a companion to the king.
Nice little redemption arc for him.
Yep.
And here we have the cyclic nature of repeating the theme of the movie at the end, as it was spoken at the beginning by Freddie Jones.
Right. And again, we've got, I kind of talked about duality in the beginning. You've got Corwin and Lissa, you've got Ergo and Titch, and then there's only 2 of the thieves left.
Right.
So it's all paired up. It's duality, which you've complemented, you've grown. Now here's where we're at with the framing. So we are into the credits, but yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thoughts overall? What did you think?
I liked it. It was good. I mean, you take it for what it is. It's a sci-fi fantasy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, don't expect much from the effects. They did it on the cheap, and they had, well, not necessarily on the cheap, but they did it with what they had, and they're getting pushback from the studio and stuff. So, don't expect much, but you'll enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Aldous?
Well, you know, I don't think it's the finest expenditure of 30 million from 1983.
Yeah.
But you know, it still holds up. It's a fun watch. It was really, despite the fact that I kind of picked it apart a little bit, I still had fun when I was watching it before this, just to kind of get some of the things down. Just to kind of go back, like if you watch it again after this, looking for those, you know, the Star Wars, there's only one story, callbacks and themes, that duality theme of Beast and Corwin, the two sons, the two Lysses, the shape shifting, the Beast shape shifts for bad reasons to try to lure Lyssa into joining him. Ergo does it for good reasons, to make Titch feel better and then to fight and help. And then the comparison of the love stories between Yigner and the Widow and Corwin and Lyssa is just really, really cool stuff that's kind of telegraphed a little bit. There's some neat symbolism with the eye motif that's played throughout it. So good movie. Thanks for having us, Pete.
Thanks a lot, Pete.
No worries. Well, thanks everybody who's watched live and everybody who'll watch recorded as well. So this was week 3 of our Movie Watch Live. And so every week we're going through classic, retro, or cult sci-fi fantasy films. Week 1 was Excalibur, week 2 was Dragon Slayer. This week we've had Krull, yet to be decided on week 4. So each week we put a poll up on Twitter and ask our audience to decide what you would most like to see. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, share the video, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.